Hey everyone, welcome to an analysis of the 2023 UCI Esport World Championships, and I recorded the final bit of the race, so that's going to be the final half mile of this race, or final kilometer of this race, and I'm just going to go over the different things that riders could have done in this race to make them have a bit of a better finish, and I was really surprised because a lot of the Zwift racing regulars did not do so well in this final bit, even though it was a flat-out sprint, which they normally could have done really well in. And that's something that I find really interesting with the UCI Esport World Championships. And the same thing happened in 2022 and 2020, where the riders who are actually riders in real life end up doing much better than the riders who are mainly esport riders, which is very interesting to see when the riders who are regulars on Zwift definitely have better tactics. Alright, so coming into this final bit, I'm just going to be replaying my recording and going through the different things. So right now, I am just scrolling through the different riders, trying to get to the front of the race. There was a breakaway of around 5 riders, and I think that those riders were not fully committed, and that was kind of the issue to the breakaway. Some of them did push pretty hard, but it wasn't quite enough because if they still had energy for a finishing sprint, they really needed to be pushing harder in that breakaway if they really wanted that to succeed. The important thing with having a breakaway in this big of a race is that you need everyone to be cooperating, and I think that's something that the breakaway kind of lacked because the riders didn't really know each other, and they were all from different nations. They were all competing for this prize money and for the title of the UCI Esport World Championship, so everybody wanted that title, but it really came down to whether they could or could not work together, and we eventually saw that they were not willing to work together as well as people on the same team would have, and that kind of caused the breakaway to kind of fail, and it eventually got reeled in within the final kilometer of the race, which kind of screwed them over, and they had nothing to do once they were caught, and they were just like thrown right off the back because everyone was already starting to sprint. And I think that if everyone had worked together at the start and gotten a solid gap, that really could have succeeded, and that would have been really interesting to see. So the usage of the usage of the burrito power is something else that I want to touch on because that is really important, and I think that honestly, some of these riders probably didn't know too much about the burrito power up. They probably don't have that much practice using the burrito power up. So really just actually knowing what the power up does and how you should be using it, that's a lot of just getting to know Zwift racing, and a lot of the flat is fast races or the monthly themed races are using burrito power ups. So that kind of helps riders get more exposed to the power up and get more practice using it. So I think that was something that was likely a bit unclear for the riders who are less regular on the Zwift platform, because I know that there are plenty of riders who are mostly IRL riders or not as frequent Zwifters, but just really strong riders overall that could have done much better if they knew when and where to use the power up. So a lot of tactics did come into play in this race, and especially with that burrito power up, because burrito power up is super powerful, and when used the wrong way, it is really harmful towards yourself. Please note that these are my personal thoughts and opinions, so I do not know what was going on in these riders' heads. I know nothing more than you do about what was going on with these riders, so this is just what I would have done based off of the data that I can see on Zwift. So you can see that R. Verhele is the first one to go off the front using that burrito power up, and he ends up doing really well, and doing that was probably one of the best ideas because you were able to really get a solid gap before everybody else turned on their burrito power up before draft was essentially eliminated, and that really helped him get that lead that he needed to make it into the top 10. A lot of things that the regulars on Zwift were doing were that they were saving their energy quite a bit, and they actually did not go all out in that finishing sprint. And I think that that was likely one of the issues with their finishes, because one of them being Brian Duffy Jr. and Tom Thrall, I'm pretty sure they had enough energy to do well in that finishing bit, but maybe just saved a bit too much energy. And this is all speculation, so I'm not sure if this is actually the reason why they not do as well as the riders who are riders in real life. But there were a lot of riders, such as Jason Osborne, who is a rider for Alpecin Koenig squad, and he did really, really well in this race. And it could have been that they were trying to save their energy for the next two races, because the next two races were going to be pretty tough. But then again, you really want to make sure you secure a spot, because the difference between first place and 30th place was only 2 seconds. So there really was not any time in there to really lose, because you really wanted to make sure that you were really close up into the front. Overall, I think that a lot of the riders in this race could have improved on this first race, because 70 riders were eliminated. That means 70% of the field was eliminated just from this first race. And this is really where you want to be spending more of your energy, because it moves you on to the next round. And it's a lot better to make it onto the second round and push more energy out in the first round, or than to save your energy in the first round and end up losing out on that top 30 slot. So overall, really interesting format that Zwift is using, and check out the next videos in this series. So thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe, and see you all in the next video. Ride on.